So now you can set her aside. We're going to make the arms and the legs. So whatever color that you used for the body is the color that you're going to start the arms with. We're going to start with the magic circle. So you just take the yarn, drape it across your 4 fingers, use your thumb to stabilize, then wrap the yarn around your 2 middle fingers, hold it in place with your pinky and your thumb. And then you're going to start with the slip knot. Then you're going to place 6 single crochet into the magic circle. Then we're going to take and just close the magic circle. And then just turn your work so that we're going to work into the first stitch in the round. And we're going to place 2 single crochet into every stitch around until you have a total of 12 stitches in the round. So 2 single crochet into every stitch around until you have a total of 12 stitches in the round. And then come back. Now you can take and close the center of the magic circle if you need to. Just turn it over and pull on that loose yarn end on the back. Then you're just going to take your yarn marker, place it right where you left off, and you're just going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch around for a total of 11 rounds. So you need 11 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch around. After you finish your 11 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch, go ahead and remove your yarn marker, and then you're going to want to stuff the arm with some craft stuffing. Then you're going to take and fold the 2 ends together, and then you're going to go into the next stitch over and make sure that you grab both stitches and then bring up a loop. And then complete your single crochet. And then you're just going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch across. So far this first stitch right here counts as 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and 5. And then you have both ends crocheted together. Then you're going to chain 1, turn your work, and then you're going to go into the next stitch over. That chain 1 counts as your first stitch. You're going to make a single crochet into the next stitch, which will be your second stitch. Next stitch for your third single crochet. Next stitch for your fourth, and then 1 single crochet into the last stitch. Then chain 1, turn your work, and repeat. And make sure that you're maintaining the stitch count at 5. And then you're going to chain 1, and then this will be your last row of 1 single crochet in every stitch across. Then go ahead and finish off, just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew the arm onto the body. So now you can set this part aside for now. So now we're going to make the cuff portion that goes between the arm and the hand. So with the cuff portion, you're going to need your green yarn. I'm using my forest green yarn. You can use a standard white yarn if you want, but I'm using my sparkle white colored yarn. And you can use a standard bright red or cherry red yarn, but I'm going to use my sparkle red. So I'm going to start with my red colored yarn. You could start with whatever color that you want. And we're going to start with a slip knot. So you just take your yarn, fold it over on itself to form a loop. Then take your crochet hook, go right through the loop, then hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and your thumb. Then just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for a slip knot. Go ahead and cinch that knot down, and then cinch the loop around the hook. And then we're going to make a chain. And we're going to start with a chain of 5. So yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we're going to make a single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So go into the second chain from the hook, go ahead and bring up a loop, and then make a single crochet. And you're going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch back across, which will give you a stitch count of 4. And then my last stitch. So we made the starting chain a chain of 5, and then we just completed our first row, which has a stitch count of 4. Now we're going to move up to the second row. So you chain 1, turn your work, and then that chain 1 counts as your first stitch for the second row. Now you're going to go into the next stitch over, bring up a loop, and complete a single crochet. So that's your second stitch. Go into the next stitch over, make a single crochet for your third stitch, and then the last stitch on the end will be the 4th single crochet. So we just completed the second row, and we're going to make 3 rows of 1 color before we change colors. So now you're going to chain 1, turn your work, and then repeat 1 single crochet into each stitch back across, and make sure that you're maintaining the stitch count at 4. So after you complete each row, you should have a stitch count of 4. Now we're going to change colors. So for mine, I'm going to go ahead and change to my green color. So I'm going to bring up a loop, and then I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm just going to set my work down and cut my previous color, and then I'm going to tie a knot, and I always do it 3 times because I want to make sure it doesn't come undone. Then you're going to chain 1, and when you chain 1, that's going to count as your first stitch for the first row with your green color. And you're going to pull the loose yarn ends to the side because you want to crochet around the loose yarn ends and then bury them at the same time as you crochet. So go ahead and go into the next stitch over, bring up a loop, you're going behind the loose yarn ends, you're going to bring up a loop and then make your single crochet. And you can pull on the loose yarn ends as you're crocheting to make sure they're nice and buried and looks neat. Then go into the next stitch over, go behind your loose yarn ends and bring up a loop, make a single crochet, and then the last stitch, again you're maintaining the stitch count of 4. Then you can give your loose yarn ends a little tug and then just take and trim them. Make sure you don't cut your yarn that you're crocheting with, and just trim the loose yarn ends. So you can see that you don't have much room that you're burying your loose yarn ends, so that's why I do a triple knot. Then you're ready to move up to the second row with your green color, so you chain 1, turn your work, and then repeat. So you're maintaining your stitch count of 4 for each row, and then you're making 3 rows with whatever color that you're crocheting with. So that was my second row. Now I'm going to chain 1, turn, and then complete my last row. And you can see how I'm maintaining the stitch count at 4 after completing each row. And now I'm going to change to my white colored yarn. So I'm going to bring in the white colored yarn and I'm going to change colors the exact same way. So go ahead and finish alternating colors until you have a total of 15 rows of alternating colors, and each color has a total of 3 rows for each color, and the stitch count is 4 for each row. So this is what mine looks like after finishing 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 rows. And now whatever color that you end with is the color that you're going to single crochet all the way around with. So after you finish your last single crochet, you're just going to turn your work and then you're going to work along the side of the strip. So you're going to go into that first stitch on the end, and then you're going to bring up a loop and then just make a single crochet, and then you're just going to evenly space a single crochet into each stitch across. So go ahead, finish making 1 single crochet into each stitch across, evenly spaced, and when you reach the end, come back. So now you can see how I reached the end. Now in the corner spaces, you may have to put 2 single crochet into the same stitch as you're turning your work to work on the end. And if you reach your loose yarn end, go ahead and crochet behind the loose yarn end to bury it. And like I said, on the corner stitches, you may need to put a couple of single crochets into the same stitch, and then that helps the corner to lay flat. And then you just continue making 1 single crochet in every stitch around except for the corners. Like I said, the corners you may need to place 2 single crochet into each of the corner stitches as you turn. So go ahead, finish making 1 single crochet except for the corners in every stitch all the way around back to where you started. This is how mine looks. when I'm finished. Then I'm going to make a slip stitch into the next stitch over. You just yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops on the hook. Then go ahead and yarn over, finish off, and pull enough yarn through to sew the ends together and to sew it to the arm. Then you're just going to take your tapestry needle, place it onto the long end that you left for sewing, and then you're just going to decide which side that you want showing. So for mine, I'm going to have this side show. Let's see if I can hide that knot a little bit. Okay, then just fold it in half. So this is the right side, so I'm going to fold it so that the wrong side is showing and the right sides are together. So the inside is going to be showing on my arm. And then you just take your tapestry needle and then you're just going to sew the ends together. So just grab the stitch on both ends to sew the stitches together and make a circle. And then you just go back and forth until the two ends are sewn together. Then once you reach the end, you can take and just tie a knot. And then don't worry about burying the loose yarn end because we're going to be using this long yarn end for sewing it to the arm. So now you can take and turn it inside out so that the right side is showing. And then it's ready to be sewn on. But for now, you're going to set it aside because we're going to make the hand. So now you want your Magnolia Way colored yarn, and we're going to start with the magic circle, just like we've done before. And we're going to place, after our slip knot, we're going to place 6 single crochet into the magic circle. And then you're just going to take and close up the magic circle just like we've done before. And then just turn your work to work in rounds. We're going to start with our first stitch in the round, and you're going to place 2 single crochet into every stitch around until you have a stitch count of 12. So 2 single crochet into each stitch around for a total stitch count of 12, and then come back. Then you're just going to take your yarn marker, place it right where you left off, and now you're just going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch around for a total of 3 rounds. So we need 3 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So after you finish your 3 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch, go ahead and move your yarn marker up. So now we're going to make a decrease round, which means that we're going to decrease the number of stitches in the round. So for this decrease round, you're going to make 1 single crochet into 1 stitch, and then you're going to single crochet 2 stitches together. So in the next stitch, you bring up a loop, next stitch, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through all 3 to single crochet 2 stitches together. And again, you're going to repeat that pattern, 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then single crochet 2 stitches together. And you're going to repeat that all the way around back to the yarn marker and then come back. So now I have 8 total stitches in the round. Then I'm going to move my yarn marker up, and you're going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch around for a total of 3 rounds. So 3 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So after you finish your 3 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch, go ahead and remove your yarn marker, and then you're just going to make a slip stitch into the next stitch over. Then you're going to go ahead and finish off. So go ahead and yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew. Actually, you're not going to need to pull a lot of yarn through for the hand. So just enough yarn to put into the inside of the hand, because we're going to be using the color on the cuff to sew over the hand. That way you won't see this Magnolia Way colored yarn on the cuff. So just kind of tuck the loose yarn end into the hand, and then you have your 3 pieces ready to put together. So remember, you're going to need 2 arms. So each arm is made the same way. You'll need these 3 pieces. Now I'm going to show you how to put them together. So first, go ahead and get your cuff and put your tapestry needle onto the long end that you left for sewing. And we're going to place the cuff. So the arm is going to be sewn where the flat portion is sewn to the body. So the cuff portion where you sewed it together is going to go towards the inside portion of the body. So I have it towards the inside, the side that I want facing towards the body. Then you're just going to take, and I'm going about, here's the magic circle, so about 2 rounds down. And I'm just going to place the cuff, making sure I have it placed the way that I want to. Making sure that my seam is in line with the flat portion that I'm going to sew to the body. And then I'm just going to take my tapestry needle and I'm just going to sew all along the base, securing it to the arm. So you can see that I've sewn the cuff on well to the arm. So now I still have quite a bit of my yarn left over to sew the hand on. So I ended right at the seam that I want facing inwards towards the body. So I just go right in with my tapestry needle and bring it through the center and bring it up so that I can start sewing the hand in place. So I just take the hand and place around to the second round up on the hand, and then position it and then sew it. Now if you don't have enough yarn to sew the hand to the cuff, just get some more of the same colored yarn and then just start sewing along the top portion of the cuff to secure the hand inside of the cuff. So now you can see that I have the hand sewn on, then the cuff, and then the arm. And this is the seam for the cuff, so I want that facing towards the inside of the body. So if that's facing the inside of the body, then the thumb should be on top. So make sure that your left or right arm, that the thumb is facing in the direction that it should be. You don't want the thumb going down when it should be going up. So the seam is going on the inside towards the body. So I'm going to put the thumb on top. So you're going to take your crochet hook and you're going to go right through the stitch where you want to place your thumb. So for mine, if I use the top magic circle as a landmark, I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds to place my thumb. I'm going to take and bring up a loop with my Magnolia Way colored yarn. Make sure that you leave enough of a loose yarn end for burying into your work. Then you're going to make a chain of 1 and then tie a knot. Then you're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you're going to make a slip stitch on back in this right next to where you joined your yarn. So right next to it, you're going to make a slip stitch. Oh, see if I can get in there. There we go. So I'm going to yarn over and then bring the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Then you can finish off. So yarn over and then pull enough yarn through to sew the thumb together and then to tie a knot. So you only need like 1 stitch to sew the thumb together. So just take your tapestry needle, put it onto that longer loose yarn end, and then you're just going to go right through the base of the thumb with your tapestry needle to sew the thumb together. Then you can take and tie a knot. Then you can take and bury your loose yarn ends. So I'm just going to go right in where I tied my knot and then just come out on the opposite side of the hand. And you want to bury both loose yarn ends. Then you can take and trim the loose yarn ends. Then you have your thumb on the hand. So you can go ahead and make your other arm the exact same way. Just remember that you should have your thumbs up. So you want the seam facing towards the body, and then you want your thumb on top. So when you make your other arm, just keep that in mind. And then you can set these aside, and I'm going to show you how to make the legs. So we're going to start with the shoes. I'm using my red sparkle yarn for my elf shoes. We're going to start with the magic circle, just like we've done before. So you're going to make your slip knot first, and then you're going to place 6 single crochet into the magic circle. And then go ahead and close up the magic circle. And then you're going to turn your work so that we're going to work in circles. And you're going to be making one single crochet into every stitch for 3 rounds. So I don't want to use a yarn marker, so I'm going to show you a little trick. So we know that we want 6 stitches in each round. So we want 3 rounds, so 6 times 3 is 18. So you're going to be making one single crochet into every stitch around 18 times. So you're just going to count to 18. So one single crochet into each stitch and count to 18. So there's 1. Here's 2. And at the same time, you're going to keep the loose yarn end on the inside of the shoe. So you want to keep it towards the inside. If you don't do that, it'll be difficult. You won't be able to turn it inside out. So you want to keep it, as you're crocheting, you want to kind of keep it formed so that the loose yarn end is going towards the inside. So that was 3. Here's 4. 5. 6. So I've completed 1 round. I'm going to keep going because I want 3 rounds. Here's 7. And again, I'm pushing it so that the loose yarn end stays into the center. Here's 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. So I finished my second round. I'm going to keep going. I need 1 more round. Here's 13. 14. So make sure that as you're working, you're not skipping stitches. 15. 16. 17, and then 1 more, and then we would complete our 3 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch around for a total of 18 stitches. And you can see how much easier that makes it than trying to use a yarn marker to keep track. And then you have a perfect pointy end for your shoe, and then you have your loose yarn end in the center. So for my loose yarn end, I'm going to go ahead and trim it and get it out of my way. So I'm just going to go a little bit past the opening, and then I'm just going to stuff the rest of the loose yarn end right into the center, and that'll just get it out of my way. Now we're ready for an increase round. So this time you are going to want your yarn marker. Just place it right where you left off. And for this increase round, you're going to make 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then 2 single crochet into the second stitch. And you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then 2 single crochet into the second stitch. And then just repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So now you should have a stitch count of 9. You can go ahead and move your yarn marker up. And now you're not going to make increase rounds. You're just going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch around for a total of 3 rounds. So 3 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch around. Now after you finished your 3 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch around, go ahead and move your yarn marker up for an increase round, which means we're going to increase the number of stitches in the round. So for this increase round, you're going to make 1 single crochet into 2 stitches, and then 2 single crochet into the 3rd stitch. And you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So now you should have 12 stitches in the round. Go ahead and move your yarn marker up. And this time we're not going to make increase rounds. You're just going to make 1 single crochet into every stitch around for a total of 3 rounds. So 3 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So now we're going to make 1 more increase round. This will be our last increase round. Go ahead and move your yarn marker up to where you left off. And for this increase round, you're going to be making 1 single crochet into 3 stitches, and then 2 single crochet into the 4th stitch, and then just repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So now you should have a total of 15 stitches in the round. Then go ahead and move your yarn marker up, and you're going to make 1 single crochet into every stitch around for a total of 3 rounds. So 3 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch around. This is what my work looks like so far. Then you can take and remove the yarn marker. We're going to make a slip stitch into the next stitch over. And then you're going to finish off. Just yarn over and pull a little bit of yarn through to help sew the other portion, the heel portion of the shoe, to the front portion of the shoe. So now you can set this down. We're going to make the heel portion of the shoe. Again, we're going to start with the magic circle. So again, we've done this before, so I'm going to go fairly quickly. Just bring up a loop for a slip knot, and then you're just going to place 6 single crochet into the magic circle. So 6 single crochet, and then you're just going to close up the circle, and then you're just going to turn your work. We're going to place 2 single crochet into every stitch around for a total of 12 stitches in the round. So 2 single crochet into each stitch for a total of 12 stitches in the round, and then come back. Then you're going to get your yarn marker and place it right where you left off, and we're going to make an increase round. So for this increase round, you're going to make 1 single crochet into 1 stitch, and then 2 single crochet into the 2nd stitch. And then you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So 1 single crochet in the 1st stitch, and then 2 single crochet into the 2nd stitch, repeating that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So now you should have 18 total stitches in the round. Go ahead and take your yarn marker and move it up to where you left off. And then we're going to make one single crochet into every stitch around for a total of 3 rounds. So 3 rounds of only one single crochet in every stitch around. Then you can go ahead and remove your yarn marker and then just make a slip stitch into the next stitch over, and then go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and then just pull a little bit of yarn through to help you sew it onto the front portion of the shoe. So now you have the heel portion. The loose yarn end should be in into the wrong side. The sparkle part is coming off. So the loose yarn end, I just kind of tuck that into the heel. And then you're going to take the front portion of the shoe, and then you're just going to tie the 2 loose yarn ends together. So just take those 2 long loose yarn ends that you left for sewing and then just tie a knot. And then we're going to sew the heel portion to the front portion of the shoe. So go ahead and get your tapestry needle and then place it onto one of the ends, one of the long ends that you left for sewing. And then you're going to take the heel and you're going to place it against the right side of the front of the shoe. So you want to hold it just like this. So the wrong side is facing up, and so is the wrong side of the front portion of the shoe. And you want to hold it like this so you don't see the seam when you sew it together. So you're going to take and sew 4 stitches to the left, and then use the other side to sew 4 stitches onto the right. So you just take your tapestry needle and you go through both the front portion and the heel portion. So I grabbed the first stitch on the left, and then I'm just going to sew the 2 pieces together. And remember, I'm only going to sew 4 stitches to the left. So here's my second stitch, and you can kind of roll it so that your stitch will come together. So this is my 3rd stitch, and then here is the 4th stitch. So I'm going to sew those together, and then I'm going to tie a knot. And then I'm just going to tuck that loose yarn end into the pointy end of the shoe for now. And then I'm going to grab the other side, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So I'm going to take and roll it so that I have 4 stitches on the opposite side. And then sew those stitches together. So here's my first stitch. Here's the second. The third. And the 4th and last stitch. Then I can take and tie a knot. And then just tuck the loose yarn end into the heel or the front part of the shoe. Then you have your heel finished and the front part of the shoe. So now you can decide if you want a bell on the tip of the shoe. So this one you can sew on with your tapestry needle. Or you can use your clover pom-pom maker or whatever pom-pom, however you want to make your pom-pom. So I'm going to place a pom-pom on the girl's shoe, and then I'll show you how I put the bell on. I put the bell on the boy's shoe, so when I show the boy's outfit, I'll show you the bell. But it's the same way. You just sew the bell onto the tip of the shoe and then sew it, curve it back, and then sew it in place. The same way I'm going to do with the pom-pom. So I'm going to show you how I make my pom-pom. So I just take my clover pom-pom maker and I just open it up so that the arches are ready to wrap the yarn around, and then just grab whatever yarn color that you want for your pom-pom. I'm using my sparkle white yarn color. And then how I do it is I just lay the starting end of the yarn on the side of the pom-pom and then just wrap it around the arch until the arch is completely covered with the yarn. Then, after I finish wrapping both arches with the yarn, I use my embroidery scissors to just go right up the center and cut the yarn. And then I do that on both sides. Then I just pull the yarn out of the sides of the pom-pom. And then you're going to want to take and cut a strip of yarn for the center of the pom-pom to tie it together, and also long enough to sew onto the tip of your shoe. So the strip of yarn just goes right down the center of your pom-pom maker, and then you just tie a knot. And then you can take and open up the arches. And then you just open up the arch. And then just kind of fluff out your pom-pom. And then you can trim it too if you have any ends sticking out. And then it's ready to sew onto your shoe. Then you just take your tapestry needle and put it onto the ends of the pom-pom. And then you just go right through the tip of the shoe with your tapestry needle. And just bring the yarn ends through the tip of the shoe. Then you can take and tie a knot. And that will secure the pom-pom to the tip of the shoe. Then you're going to take your tapestry needle and you're going to want to make sure that you go back to make sure that the opening of the shoe is facing up, and then see where you want to sew the tip of your pom-pom. So curl it back and see where you want to sew it on the top of the shoe. And then once you know where you'd like to sew it, just take a stitch and then just pull the yarn through. And then you'll do the same thing with the other yarn end. Just go through and then just tie a knot. And then what I do with my loose yarn ends is I just take my tapestry needle and then I take and go up through the pom-pom, come out anywhere, and then just trim the loose yarn end so it becomes part of the pom-pom. So go ahead and bury your loose yarn ends. And remember, you're going to need 2 legs. So you would start your second pair the same way. Second leg, I mean. So now you're going to join the same colored yarn as the shoe. So you're going to go into one of the side corners and then just bring up a loop and then chain 1 and then tie a knot. Now this first round is going to give you what your stitch count is. Now your stitch count may vary for this first round because we had sewn the stitches together. So some people may have 1 or 2 off as far as the stitch, but I'll show you how to fix that. So the first thing you're going to do is just chain 1, and then you're going to go into the next stitch over and you're going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch until you get to where the front part of the shoe meets the heel. So here you can see where I'm at. This is the front part of the shoe and then here's the heel. So at this V-shaped connection where they connect, I'm going to make a single crochet 2 stitches together. So I'm going to go into that first stitch and bring up a loop and then go into the next stitch over on the heel and then bring up a loop, and then I'm just going to single crochet 2 stitches together, and I only do that where the heel meets the front portion of the heel. And then you just continue 1 single crochet in every stitch until you get to where you started. So here you can see where I'm back to where the heel meets the front portion of the shoe. So I'm going to single crochet 2 stitches together. And then that will bring me back to where I started. So now I just want to count my stitches to see what my stitch count is, and this is where our stitch counts may vary. So for mine, I ended up with 19 total stitches in the round, which is exactly what I want. Now if you're 1 or 2 stitches off and you want to get to a 19 stitch count, then this next round is where you would make your stitch count a 19. And you already know how to increase and you know how to decrease stitches. Remember, to increase stitches, you make 2 single crochet into 1 stitch. So if you need to increase by 1, then you can start with 2 single crochet into 1 stitch. Now if you need 2, then you just evenly space your increased stitches in the round. So if you start with 2 single crochet here to increase by 1 stitch, you would make your 2 single crochet maybe on the opposite side if you need to increase by 2 stitches, and so on. Now if you need to decrease stitches, remember that you single crochet 2 stitches together. So now If you have the stitch count that you want, so you have 19 total stitches, then you're just going to make one single crochet into every stitch around and maintain your stitch count of 19. And then for everybody else, if you're trying to get to a 19 stitch count, you would increase or decrease however many stitches that you need for this round. So now I'm back to where I started, so I'm just going to move up my yarn marker, and now everybody should be at a stitch count of 19. So now you're just going to make one single crochet in every stitch around for 4 rounds. So 4 rounds of one single crochet into every stitch around, and then come back. So now you can see that I have 4 rounds of one single crochet in every stitch around. Go ahead and continue making one single crochet in every stitch until you are in the back of the shoe, and then come back. So now you can go ahead and stuff your shoe. So you can see I'm in the back of the shoe now. This is where I'm going to make my color changes. You can go ahead and remove your yarn marker. And then just be careful that you don't overstuff your shoe. You can see I have a little bit of opening there, but that's okay. So you don't want too much where you can see through the stuffing. So be careful not to overstuff your shoe. Then you don't have to worry about getting the stuffing all the way up, so give yourself some room to crochet, because you can always stuff more later. It's just harder to get into the tip of the shoe once you've gotten up higher with your leg. So now that you're in the back, we're going to make our first color change. So I'm going to be changing to my green color. So I'm just going to take my crochet hook, go into the next stitch over, and then just bring up a loop, and then bring in my green colored yarn. So I'm using my forest green colored yarn, and I'm just going to bring up a loop and then chain 1, and then I'm going to take and cut the previous colored yarn and then just tie a knot. And then I'm just going to tuck the loose yarn ends into the center of the foot as I crochet. So for this round only, I'm going to increase my stitch count to 20. So the lower part of the leg, we had a stitch count of 19. So now I'm going to make a stitch count of 20. So in the first stitch, I'm going to make 2 single crochet into the same stitch, and that will increase my stitch count by 1 to a total of 20. Then you're just going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch around back to where you started. So now I'm back to where I started, and I just want to point something out. When you color change and tie a knot, sometimes it'll look like your stitch there's an extra stitch. So make sure that you're going into your real first stitch. So when you're first starting out, you're going to want to make sure you keep track of your stitch count in the rounds and make sure that you're maintaining a stitch count of 20. So you're not adding stitches or decreasing stitches. So if you maintain your stitch count at 20 for each round, then your work will come out right. So now you're just going to continue working in rounds and making 1 single crochet in every stitch around for a total of 4 rounds. So we already made 1, so I need 3 more, and we're going to be making 4 rounds for each color change. And again, make sure that you're maintaining a stitch count of 20 for each round. So you can see that I finished 4 rounds of my green color, so now I'm going to change to my white color. And when I color change right before the previous color change. So here you can see I'm like a stitch before the stitch that I color changed in the previous color change row. And then you just keep making one single crochet in every stitch around, making sure that you're maintaining a stitch count of 20 in the round. And then I alternated 4 rounds of red, 4 rounds of green, and then 4 rounds of white, and then I just kept repeating 4 rounds of red, green, and then white until I've completed a total of 36 rounds of color changes with 4 rounds in each color. So now you can see that I finished counting the first 4 rounds on top of the shoe. I had 4 here, and then you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times 4 is 36 rounds. Then I went ahead and changed back to my red colored yarn. And then you're going to make one single, after you change back to your red colored yarn, make sure that you stuff the leg well up to this level. So now after you've stuffed it with some craft stuffing up to this point, then we're going to make a decrease round. Go ahead and get your yarn marker and place it right where you left off. And then you're going to make one single crochet into 3 stitches. And then you're going to single crochet 2 stitches together. And you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So one single crochet into 3 stitches and then single crochet 2 stitches together. Repeating that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. Now you should have a total of 16 total stitches in the round. Then you can take and move your yarn marker up. And then you're going to make one single crochet in every stitch around for a total of 8 rounds. So 8 rounds of one single crochet in every stitch around. After you finish your 8 rounds of one single crochet in every stitch, you can go ahead and remove your yarn marker and then just make a slip stitch into the next stitch over. Just yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Then go ahead and finish off, just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew the leg onto the doll. Now you just need 2 of them, and I have my 2 legs ready to sew on. And I had fun with one of the stockings. I just kind of changed up the stripes on it. But I have my 2 legs ready to sew on. We're going to sew the arms on first, so go ahead and get both of your arms. So now you're just going to get your arms and your tapestry needle and put it onto the long end that you left for sewing. If you didn't leave a long loose yarn end, go ahead and just get the same color as the arm. And this cuff seam will go in towards the body, and remember the thumb is pointing up. And then once you have the right arm, you're going to line it up, and I line mine up at an angle, and then I line it up in line with the ears. So here you can see I have a little bit of an angle. And then once you have it positioned where you want it, then you can take your tapestry needle, and then you're just going to sew the arm flap in place. So you just go in and out and secure the arm in place. Just go in and out around the square flap of the arm and just secure it to the body. And then I just take and end up towards the back flap of the arm, and then I just tie a knot. And then once I finish tying a knot, then I just take and bury the loose yarn end, and then I'm just going to go through twice and then just end up towards the back of the arm just to make sure it's nice and buried. So you're going to sew the other arm on the same way. Just make sure that before you sew it in place that both arms are equal and that they will come together in the front and that they're not crooked before you sew them in place. And this is how you can see how my arms go in and out the way I want to, or have them come together. Now we're ready to sew the legs on. Now for the legs, I'm going to use the magic circle on the bottom of the body as a landmark, and I'm keeping those 8 single crochet flat, so I didn't add any more stuffing. I only stuffed up to the used craft stuffing up to that point that I told you before. Then you just want to flatten that 8 single crochet portion with the pom-pom facing up. You can see how I have it flat there. And then that long end that you left for sewing, just put that onto your tapestry needle, or just use the same colored yarn as that flap. Then you want to make sure that you keep track of where the foot is pointing so you don't sew it on backwards. And then you're just going to line up that back flap with the magic circle. So you're going to take the flap and just push it right up against the magic circle. And again, you want to make sure that the feet are facing forward so you don't sew the feet on backwards. Then once you've lined it up, so here you could see that I used the magic circle on the bottom of the body. So I'm going to line up the edge with the magic circle, and I'm lining up the side of the leg right up against the magic circle. Then I'm going to take and sew the leg in place to the body, to the bottom of the body. So you want to make sure too that you have sew the flap together on the leg. So you don't want an opening to the leg. So the first part that I sewed is the flap on the end, making sure that it's nice and closed. And then once that's sewn in place, then you can sew around the edge in a square pattern to secure the leg on the bottom of the body. So I'm just going in and out in the square pattern and securing the leg to the bottom of the body. This is what my leg looks like after I've sewn it in place. And now you're ready to sew the other leg in place. This is what mine looks like after sewing the legs in place. You can see that they flip forward, and I have both shoes facing the right direction, so you want them facing up. Now you can set your doll aside. I'm going to show you how to make the dress.